Hi, everybody. It is Wednesday, something that the Geico Camel used to call Hump Day, but now every day is basically a Wednesday. We're basically living in an eternal cycle of 365 Wednesdays. It is Burns and Holla. I am Zach Burns, joined, of course, as always, by Terry Holloman. Terry, isn't it weird that we've done all these shows together and the last time we were even remotely close to one another was like a year and a half ago, maybe.
If then.
Yeah. It's been a long time.
It's because we've been trapped in this time warp, this 365 Wednesdays, 365 days of Wednesdays.
And Jayme Monacelli joins us as well, former co-host of mine from my days in Kansas City that I still think of so very fondly. I was not there for particularly long. I think I was there for like 18 months in total, but it feels like a lot longer, just the way high school feels a lot longer than just 4 years. And we did we did a midday show together, 10A to 2P, called Trend KC. And even though we only did the show together for like 18 months, you're probably still in my top 10 people of all time that I've actually had a direct conversation with, because we would actually have to look at each other and speak to each other for 4 hours a day, every day.
Which is, you were the first person I had done that with. I had never done talk radio before you came along. I'd always done news before that. And so I didn't know. Totally new experience for me, having to fill that time, a midday show that a lot of people had not really done local midday talk before. So we didn't even really know what we were supposed to be doing to make it work.
We replaced Rush Limbaugh, and that's always a formula for success.
Right.
Rush Limbaugh fans are always like, I was kind of done with him anyway. Let's see what's new.
Yeah. Yeah, it was weird. And I had been at KMBZ before. And so I came back in this slot and just kind of, it is like a marriage, it's like, it was kind of like an arranged marriage for us. Like here's this person you don't know, now go and be entertaining with them for 4 hours a day.
And we were not given much of an opportunity to get to know one another outside of the air.
You mean that 2 hour lunch was not enough for you to really get to know my soul before we went into a studio together?
Right. Because of course we're not gonna want to say anything that upsets the other person. So it's just like, oh, you like travel? I like travel. Do you like
you like music? Oh, me too. Like,
love music.
Politics, good. Yeah. Like,
but it did turn out we liked remarkably different kinds of music.
Yes.
It was kind of, Terry, and this was sort of maybe, other than I had a terrible boss towards the end. I was given just too much freedom in Kansas City, just like I was given too much freedom at Cairo. And when I'm given too much freedom, I just assume that everybody is insanely interested in the same things that I'm also into, forget that they're and that they would of course get all my inside references to the pop culture items and artists that I enjoy, because my family and friends do, so why wouldn't these people?
And admittedly, pop culture is not my area of expertise when it comes to talk topics.
No, I know.
No. Zach's being kind.
Well,
it was not my area of expertise.
Can you fill me in there? Because I feel like I'm like the third wheel on the date here, and I want to find out more about Jayme. What is it's not pop culture. So what's your bag?
Zach, what do you think my area is of? It's okay to be honest here, because I would expect nothing less. Keeping in mind, it's been a few years since we did the show together, so I'm involved a bit, but
I'm sure you've gotten much better because you've had much more likable co-hosts.
I've had two more since you, actually.
Yeah.
So
right. And I came from a place that everything that I found interesting, other people also said they were interested in. So we started sort of off we started off with rocky. It was tough because we didn't know each other. We had like 4 hours. Terry, is a long time. We weren't taking phone calls. Which I didn't think was a mistake, but that did make things more difficult. So we're getting to know each other on a personal level on the air and trying to find out other people, her interests versus my interests. And then I would say that it led to a great deal of tension for a while because she couldn't figure me out and I couldn't really figure her out.
I couldn't figure out, and tell me, Terry, I mean, feel free to let me know if this is your experience. The tough part for me sometimes was not knowing when he was serious and when he was joking.
Yeah.
And not knowing, like, is he just trying to play me? And is he just trying to play a game with me here? Or is he being serious, and not knowing when to like trust him that he was being like on my side versus is this just for entertainment? And it was just about the time that you left that I figured it out. And I was like, dang it. Like I just kind of got to the heart of Zach.
And here we go.
He's gone.
Yeah.
You know,
I just pretty much think he's full of shit all the time. So that's why our relationship works.
It's reasonable.
Okay. All right, Zach.
It's a good place.
Zach's intimidating because he's, and I say this honestly, like crazy smart. Smartest guy in the room, genuinely, like book smart, world smart, life smart. And it was just a lot to keep up with sometimes. Like, man, I'm not, this is a lot, this is impressive.
And
you shouldn't try.
Some days I didn't.
But I don't think of myself that way. And I never want to come off that way. But it's when we were transitioning between me and, well, one day, Jayme, I'm just getting, Terry, you're just going to get a little bit of a history. We'll get to this point where it's like, you know what, Terry, fuck all this. Like, we'll just get mad, whatever. Like, it's just inevitable. But Jayme and I, there was a transition in leadership at the station.
Yes.
And we were kind of altering the direction of the show into one that I wasn't digging all that much. And it was kind of even more corrosive towards our relationship. And then I do remember this as an on-air moment. We sort of had a spat.
We had a fight.
And I feel like that was the best thing that ever happened.
We had a fight.
Because we did. Because
do we recall what the fight was about?
No.
Yeah, I do.
I don't.
Not necessarily like specifically what the issue was, but you were concerned about following the new kind of direction programming was taken, and I didn't care. And I sort of, so, you made a somewhat abrasive remark, but probably not that much. And then it was a very brief thing because we got to get to the top of the hour news. Right. So we had like a 3-minute thing. And at that time I still smoked. So I ran downstairs, or like we had this brief spat and then kind of a little off air spat. And then I ran downstairs to have my, 4-minute cigarette and then came back up. And I feel like things got way better after that. Like it was something that it should have happened really like 2 months into the show.
Yeah. I don't remember what the topic was. I wish I did. I don't remember what we were, but it was when we were newly taking calls and you have a new boss, and I'm more at the time, more of a little bit like got to toe the company line a little bit and got to do what we're being told. And I just remember that you caught me off guard and pushed me on an argument that I wasn't prepared to defend. And I was embarrassed by that. I mean, if I'm being honest, I think that's what caught me off, was that I couldn't defend this argument that I had just made. And I would rather just get out of this uncomfortable moment that I'm in and go to calls. And you were intent on like making me defend this thing I couldn't defend. And I remember saying, can we just go to calls? And I'm watching the text line that is calling me every name in the book. Yeah. Like I'm words I'm not even comfortable saying here because I'm the one that like, you got me. Oh, look, Zach got her. Like, oh, look, she got caught.
Which was never ever my intention in the show, because that's not fun. That's not right. That, unless your show is designed to be that way, and ours was never. And Terry, I'm never going to set up a gotcha moment. Mm-hmm. I have with previous co-host, but I don't feel like that's the kind of relationship that I really want to have with any of them anymore. Like I feel like Terry and I just kind of shoot the breeze. Yeah. We both have somewhat similar interests. We're both, frustrated with the, state of broadcasting and the state of the world, and just kind of want to bring on interesting people that don't otherwise get a voice. So if it felt like a moment where like, oh, I'm going to set Monacelli up, and early on, I will say this. There were moments.
It was a game for you. That was what you were in for. You were there to entertain Zach sometimes. And I think that was a moment where like it was an audience of one, and I'm gonna catch her. And you totally did. And I didn't know how to react. But you're right in that after that, somehow things were cool. Like somehow I remember we went out that weekend, even after that. Like we started hanging out outside of the show for the first time.
Right.
And suddenly it was like we'd broken the tension, or whatever had been building for a long time finally was out. And then it was fun after that, weirdly.
It was. Yeah, that was, you wonder what would happen if that had occurred
sooner,
much earlier. Although the thing is that we were largely rudderless in the beginning because, Jack, I love you, but
we didn't know what to do.
Garbage.
No one knew what to do with us.
Nobody really.
No one had a plan.
Everyone was like, come in and just be this revolutionary thing and this change to this market. And again, Terry, imagine replacing Rush Limbaugh.
Yeah. No.
So people, because no matter how many,
and the next day they hear Zak and Jayme.
Yeah. One day where it's like,
and it's the same audience still.
That's
highly conservative audience that is angry that Rush isn't on.
The Friday previous, you have like this, chubby Vicodin addict saying all sluts should, if you're a slut, you shouldn't get, a birth control anyway. You should just stop being a slut. And then I come on Monday and I'm making references to It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia and just being snarky and using like the Ramones as a rejoinder.
Mm-hmm.
This was the worst audience transition
I
ever.
could imagine the text.
Oh my God.
I would have turned it off.
I never experienced, and Jayme, you got it worse than I did because it's a male heavy audience and they're much more comfortable being mean to women than they are men. And I remember watching like it affect you because the text line would just be like, 50 a minute or whatever. And they would attack you on a personal level.
It's different. And it's, I appreciate that you noticed that.
I definitely did.
Yeah, it's different for men and women as talk show hosts in this business. Having to do, and again, so you left and I'm on my second work husband since you, but having to do this show through the Me Too movement was one of the hardest things I've ever done with a male heavy audience who I'm the only woman in the room having to speak for. I know women need me to speak for them, but I got everybody fighting against me. Or that's not true. The vocal ones are fighting against me. Yeah, because I have friends that are not fighting against me. So I know that it's just the vocal ones that are really calling me the names. It's hard because with a female talk show host, I feel like the male audience makes it personal. For you, they might attack what you say or they might attack your intelligence. But for me, I get called well, that's why you're not married.
Right.
I get. And that's the light end of things. I mean, I get called things that I won't repeat. The Me Too movement time was difficult. And since then, though, I feel like our audience for this show has shifted more female. And that's made it a little bit easier that I feel like I got a little bit more balance with the male and female audience. But the men are still, and it's not all, I don't mean to say that because it's totally not. It's not all men. But the vocal ones are the ones that want to really tell you what they think.
Well, I mean, let's skew this show a little bit more female then as well and add Amy Anderson to the stream.
Amy! How are you in the bathroom?
It's so good to see you guys.
You too.
Great to see everybody's faces. This is like that. This is the fun part of every week is that I'm actually seeing not in person, but a live version of people that I haven't seen in months in both your cases years. Terry, this is Amy Anderson. She filled in for Jayme a few times. She's an evening anchor here, and we just became buddies while I was out here. Terry, you'd love Kansas City. I really think that you would actually.
You should visit.
Yeah.
I was just going to ask you guys to fill me in on a little bit of the KC vibe, man. I've never officially been to Kansas City. Got my family down there, but I mean, as people that are in the media or in the journalism, what is the vibe? What's happening down in KC right now?
In Kansas
Amy, go
City?
for it.
Oh, well, I mean, Jayme, as you know, this is what we talk about all the time. What's happening in Kansas City is the same thing that's happening across the country. We're in the middle of this crazy, and I'm sorry, my dog is barking. My kids are probably going to butt in, and I'm sorry I'm late. That was rude. A board meeting. But anyway, it's it's the same thing. And it's a tough time, throwing COVID into the mix is making it 1,000 times worse right now. There's a lot happening with people, it's time to send kids back to school. Is it safe to send them back to school? You know, we've got school districts here saying, not happening. We're going to go ahead and listen to the health department. You're going to keep your kids home. It's not safe. And then we've got the next door school district saying, no, we're going to go. And parents are confused. It's just, it's a crazy time here, just like it is across the rest of the country. It really is right now. It's a hard time.
Yeah, it's been interesting because we have a very progressive mayor of the mother city of Kansas City, Missouri, who led the way when it came to shutdown orders and mask mandates. And then you have, you know, we're on a state line. So you have the governor of Missouri who flat out refuses to do a mask mandate at kind of at odds with the mayor of our big city. And then the mayor of Kansas, who also has been a little bit more progressive.
Yeah.
Mayor of Kansas City, Kansas?
I'm sorry, the governor of Kansas.
The governor.
Laura Kelly, excuse me.
Yeah.
Who has been more on the side of the mayor of Kansas City. It's been really interesting to watch. But stuff is starting to reopen a little bit, which has been interesting to watch, you know. But it's really funny. I told Zach that when he first moved here, this would have been, 2015, that you would have moved, 2014. It's a pretty different city now than it was. I've been here since 2007. And Zach, you would not have liked Kansas City as much in 2007. It became a much different city over the last 10, 13 years. Just more going on, more interesting, more of a food and beer town, just a lot more happening than there used to be.
It's changed so much. I mean, just if you had gone to downtown Kansas City 15 years ago, and then fast forwarded to now, it's night and day. And this is my hometown. So for me, this has been awesome for me to see this rebirth of Kansas City, especially downtown, because like when my grandfather came here from New York, it was a huge city and everybody worked downtown. It had that city vibe and then it just died. Mm-hmm. And now it is just fantastic and it's blowing up. We've got these great, you know, restaurants and things to do down there. And it really is awesome all over again. It's made me so proud this last decade watching all this happen. It's
true, Terry. I mean, I kind of went there without any sort of expectation that I would take the job being offered. Mostly, you know, I was getting job offers in the Midwest, Madison and stuff. But we decided, you know, the station decided to fly us out. So we just hung out there for a weekend and we were just incredibly taken by it. It's a very underappreciated, it's a horribly branded city in that it's called Kansas City. And then people get mad that nobody knows they mean Kansas City, Missouri, even though it's right on the border of Kansas, where there is also another Kansas City, but that's Kansas City, Kansas. And that one's a little more lousy. I
heard they have a really nice water park or something there. I read once upon a time.
So,
they have a water park.
There is a water park. There are a couple of them, but they have not been without their issues.
Yeah, they definitely have had their issues. But I was also blessed to live there. So I left Seattle the year. Actually, I watched Tom Brady beat the Seahawks while I was in Kansas City. The year before, I watched the Seahawks win the Super Bowl, and then I had the chance to live in KC when the Royals won, which just made it all the more fun. Like it was like the entire city was united and became buddies because, you know, everybody had a Royals hat on, and I instantly became a Royals fan. So that definitely helped my experience there. But everything is it's closer to the kind of city feel that I miss, which is an East Coast city feel, where there's actually historical sites where something happened. Where that is as much as I love, you know, Seattle, it's the lack of historical significance here in terms of the buildings and the structures that you see do make me miss, you know, the brick buildings that used to be, you know, gangster hangouts in Kansas City, or the brick buildings where the actual Declaration of Independence was signed back in New York or Philadelphia or Boston. So that was one thing that I thought was really cool and charming about it, is that Kansas City had this vibrant past that could really, you know, capture your interest. And where Seattle, if you talk about the history of it, it's like, oh, we grunge. Like that's as far back as most people go.
Mm-hmm. Have you been back, Zach?
No.
Since you left?
No, it's a weird, I'd like to, but then there's all these new places that I want to go.
Yeah.
And it's kind of pain to get from Seattle to Kansas City. So like we could go to an island. Well, we can't go anywhere, but in happier days, we could go and actually have this magical vacation which would cost us like from Seattle to Kansas City about the same price.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Zach
But
got married in
I'd love to
Kansas
come
City.
back.
I feel like honored to have been a part of Zach's original wedding. That might be the only, that was a radio station wedding that happened in our cafeteria.
That hacked
So,
My gosh, I forgot about that. It was the cafeteria.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
that was-
The only main thing that makes me feel better about it is that Sheryl Crow performed in that same space. So it's like it's not bad.
Gosh, there you
But
go.
I was just, after we were definitely struggling in terms of like garnering an audience. So it's just like, what do I need to do to be liked? Because these people just are not liking me and not liking us. So I was like, oh, they like marriage because that's like adjacent to Christian values. So let me get married on the air.
Yeah.
Let me appease the people in the state that I'm actually broadcasting from and forget that not everyone lives in River Market in KC. So that was a sad attempt to sort of garner some sort of audience acceptance, and it didn't overall work, but we do have the story that we got married by a motorcycle gang leader named Moose. I still have the suit, which was free. It doesn't fit particularly well. I was a lot chubbier then, but yeah, it was fun and an experience at least. Yeah. So Terry, I got married on the air, but then we had a legit wedding like a year later.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. See, the things I learned from being on the show with you, Zach, and being introduced to your old friends, I would have never known this about you.
Probably not. It's not something I've listened to it once, and it just makes me cringe.
I have not listened to it. I mean, I have not come back and listened to. I don't even know where it is. I wouldn't even know where to find it.
Was she?
She was fine with it. This is for the greatest of reasons to get married. Because there were insurance concerns. So she didn't get on my plan, which is, the most romantic reason to ever, tie the knot. But
for your pre-existing conditions.
Right, exactly. I know.
Married for diabetes.
It was like her parents literally came out to Kansas City. I think the one and only time they did. My parents literally came out. But, it would have been unacceptable for us not to have, the proper ceremony. But the weird thing is it actually removes stress from the next ceremony because we were already married. So it's like, no matter how badly things could possibly go, at the end of the day, we're still going to be married because we have been for over a year already.
And then you left.
And then I left, yeah.
And then you left.
Yeah. So part of my wedding trip was visiting my friend Pete, who was the PD at the time at Cairo, who had been trying to get me to come back for a while. And this is why I definitely left, Jayme, is that I knew that I wasn't going to get this sort of traction going forward that somebody else and Mike, the guy who filled in, would get. Because I knew I didn't want to do Scott and Dana's format. Like that never really interested. And then they weren't going. They're young for talk shows. They're them was dying off anytime soon. So they were. I felt like as much as I loved it there, it was going to just be stagnant. And I like coming back to Seattle. I thought was going to be an opportunity, which turned out to be not the case whatsoever. But, at the time it seemed like limitless boundaries to what I could possibly do. And I'm feeling a lot more optimistic about my future here now than. But
you have to take chances too, Zach. I mean, that's part of life, and
yeah,
absolutely.
And it was tough. As much as I just sung the praises of Kansas City, it was really tough to get people to visit us there. Most of our friends are gay, so it was like, well, I mean, I'm not going to say that there's a great gay nightlife here because I only know of 2 gay bars and they're exactly right next to each other and they look exactly the same. But trying to get him to come and visit was really tough. And then my brother, who's, a jet setter, was never able to make it. So Seattle just became, especially because a lot of my family is in Canada, just a lot more accessible to a lot. And Jessica's got Portland connections, so it's a quick bus ride or whatever. We're going to go see my brother on Labor Day weekend. If I still lived in Kansas City, who knows the next time that I'd actually be able to go and see him. But I anytime it's become one of those places, like I bring it up and people sort of roll their eyes and like, no, you're going to listen to me for a second. This is a destination. Like you should make a trip out there.
Yeah. And I think the Midwest audience was not always kind to you. I think, we are, and it's shifted, the audience has shifted in the last few years, but at the time that immediate post-rush audience was not kind to somebody who was not from the Midwest. And that didn't help you here.
And that was a strange thing to me too, is that I could have lied and pretended that I was, but the first time that I was on the air, they're like, well, he's coming in from liberal Seattle. I'm like, oh, okay, well, this is how they're going to brand me. This is another hurdle that I have to overcome. Because I could have just lied and said I was from Lee Summit. I'm not using a real name. All of this could have been fabricated.
Terry, do you have any questions? Tell us stuff. What don't we know about, about our friend? Or if you have,
do you have any tidbits for us?
Yeah.
About Zach?
Yeah.
I guarantee you. See, you like he said, I haven't seen Zach in person since when? I don't even know it.
Since that time you came into KOW to talk about, I don't even remember what we
football?
had 10 minutes. Yeah, it's obviously football.
Yeah, I came to talk about football.
And then we had 10 minutes together, and before then, I don't even know, honestly.
So me and Zach have a virtual relationship.
Yeah,
we have a mutual disdain for our former. Never mind, I'm not going to even go there. But
I think I already know. That's fine.
Yeah. Well, you guys know. We've been bamboozled and hornswoggled together. We share that in common. But, Zach. He's a good dude, man. He has a good heart, and he works hard, and he's good at what he does.
Oh, he's awesome. He's the best. That's why we're both sitting here right now. I love listening to Zach, talking to Zach. Have you met his dad, though?
Oh, yes.
What?
How's my dad doing?
Yes, and has Terry met your dad?
No.
Oh, come on. You got to meet his dad.
Well, my dad is
Where is he?
He's in Jersey. That's where, so he has two houses now. He's bi-coastal. He's on
wow.
Both my parents. Yeah, they bought a house in Palm Desert. Yeah. And just hanging out there, he's Terry, that he used to play in the NHL. Yeah. So he definitely there's a hockey bar in Kansas City called the Blue Line, and he made a big imprint on them. They have a picture of him up on their wall and everything. But he's doing fine. He's bummed out. Dale Hawerchuk died yesterday, which kind of made us all sad. Winnipeg Jet legend, former Flyer, although briefly. But he's just he's kind of just enjoying his retirement. They live in an idyllic little New Jersey town called Medford Lakes, and it's absolutely beautiful there. And they just have their buddies that they go and see, and he's just kind of existing. Same with my mom. They're just they're doing A-okay.
How's Jessica?
Good. So she's actually in the office today. On Wednesday, she got a job with the Seattle Symphony.
Okay.
Cool. As their event coordinator. Was furloughed for 10 days, but then they brought her back. So she's been doing just fine. She's been working 95% from home, but just as of late has been going back into the office just because it's as productive as people pretend they can be from home. If you're not in a place designed for work, there's just distractions that are too easy to succumb to. So she goes there once a week, but otherwise is doing quite well. She does YouTube yoga. And that's it. And we've spent thousands of hours together in the past 6 months, but we're still here without any sort of injuries or assault charges.
And that's the thing about all this is as hard as everything has been, and I'm going to go get my dog in a minute because
we're going to hear the dog. Let's see the dog.
And like dog to Billy, and Billy's not rescuing me here. I will go get Big Mouth and just bring him in here in a minute.
Sure.
But as hard as it has been with everything, I've been working from home. Until last weekend, I was anchoring weekend evenings from my basement.
Mm-hmm.
And then, during the day, we join in on the news meeting, just, like on a Zoom meeting. And then we go out and shoot our story. And a lot of times I'll come back here and write it. And then we'll go somewhere and do our live shot. So I'm officing out of my house or out of the photographer's house. And as crazy and strange as it's been, I've spent so much more time with my kids because they've been stuck in the house since March. And so for me, I feel like it's a blessing, and I will never regret the extra time I've spent at home with my family. I mean, it's that there's something to be said for that because we were always going. There's always a soccer game. There's a baseball game. There's swimming. There's this, there's that, work meetings. And it just felt like you were constantly going, and we've been forced to just sit still and just hang out. And that has been amazing. I've loved every second of that. For sure.
Terry said the same thing, that's remarkable to me because most parents I talk to are like, the worst part of the pandemic is that yes. Yeah.
Well,
they like say that in front of their kids. Like, I am tired of you. Like they'll look them right in the eye and be like, I regret you now.
I would assume that depends on what type of relationship you have with your kids, or like what you did prior to the pandemic. Like Amy said, I had very active kids, and we were always on the go. I have 4. I don't know how many you have.
Oh man, yeah.
But I have 4, and they were all involved in multiple activities, from soccer to basketball to we started baseball this spring, so it was moving from one gym to the next school to the next school, and to all these different events. And so we rarely got a chance to ever, let alone eat dinner together, but just need to see each other. So we did something during the pandemic. It wasn't my idea. It was the kids and the wife, where we had a month straight, 31 days of theme dinners. So every single night, it was because we were going stir crazy, and we just wanted to have a little fun, a little entertainment. So we would get dressed up every single night on a different theme, from Hawaii night to college night to 50s night to Seattle grunge night, right? So
wow, that's impressive.
That is
none of my doing.
Because I feel like if I ever did that by night 8, it would just be like, it's shirt night. Swear shirt. That's it.
It's jammy night.
Right. It's just dinner night.
I got a new co-host in December who moved to Kansas City from St. Louis for the job. We did 2.5 months of shows together, and then pandemic hit. And I feel bad because he moved all the way to Kansas City. We had no idea in December that this was going to happen, but I have not seen him now since the middle of March. So he moves all the way here. And then, we have 2 good months together, and then pandemic hits. And then all of a sudden, since the middle of March, we've been doing shows from home separately. So and the last thing anybody wants is for us to be in the same place, because the concern is one of you gets sick, the other one gets sick. So I feel bad that he moved all the way here. And then now he's gotten to do nothing. Restaurants were closed for a while. There's this great
thing. Anybody else?
Not going to experience.
Relatives?
Poor guy.
Does he have friends or relatives other than, did he just move out? Like, I'm here.
He had an aunt and uncle here, and that's it. And he's married. And so his wife is here with him. Otherwise, he would have been here completely alone. But
out of St. Louis, so that's a plus.
Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah. But as somebody who lives alone, who is an extrovert and a major traveler, this has been a test.
I was thinking about you with the traveling. Like, that's going to be killing you. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
how close have you come to cracking? Where I don't know. Yeah.
Very close. I'm just, I'm lucky that I live on the plaza now. So I'm lucky that I have a lot of, for Terry's benefit, I live in a commercial area of town, which was completely shut down for 2 months, but at least there's a lot of activity happening out my front door, and a conscious decision had to be made about what circle I was going to keep and keeping that circle small, but that way you at least had a circle. I had trips planned for the year. I had just, before the pandemic hit, I had done everything for my scuba certification except test dives that I was going to go do in Belize. That will happen someday. I did the show for 1 week from Mobile Bay, Alabama. I drove just to go get away for a week and did the show from the coast, and that was it. So here we sit in the middle of it.
Have you been home yet? Because you're near Chicago, right?
No, but no, and thank you for asking. No, I have not seen my mom in the Chicago area since the end of January. And this may be the longest I've gone in my life without seeing.
Awful.
Yeah.
Seeing her. So.
Oh, what's the name of that little town that you're from?
Kankakee.
Kankakee. Yeah.
Heard of that place?
Say what?
I've heard of that place.
Have you?
Yeah, I actually heard about it. I watched I watched a show called The Shy. You ever seen it?
No.
Yeah, there's a show. It's on.
They mentioned Kankakee in that show.
They did.
Oh wow!
Yeah, there was a
light?
long lost brother who was in Kankakee.
That makes sense.
No.
It's 47% of the population of Kankakee is people who don't want to be found.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
But it's funny. It's a debate that I have with my mom a lot. My mom's a nurse and has always been in the office, runs a home healthcare company, and so every weekend we have the conversation like it's the elephant in the room. Well, am I going to do the drive this weekend, or are we going to wait another week? And what's the positivity rate like in Illinois? And she's close enough to Chicago that's an issue. And she works downtown. And every weekend we have this conversation about, well, can I go and see her yet, or do we need to wait? And so far we've just waited another week just to see what happens. But now I feel like the positivity rate for Illinois is lower than it is here. It's at like 4.3% now, which is lower than here.
Yep. Now they're telling people from Chicago, hey, if you visit Kansas, quarantine when you get back. I mean, that's craziness. You know why? Because people don't want to wear their mask, and it makes me insane.
And I'm glad that we don't have that so much here. That I've seen. I'm just kind of like scrapping together whatever gig I can get just to put together some money. So I'm in a lot of retail situations, and I've seen one mask freak out, but it was definitely someone who had other issues going on, but we haven't had that, someone coming in with a Confederate flag yelling about the Constitution, which is, if you subscribe to this Reddit subreddit called Public Freakout, like you see that happen all the time. But what we've had here is a lot more protesting than you've had in Kansas City.
Although
at least nationally covered protests. You definitely do. Yeah. Because Jayme, we actually. I think it was the second episode. We had Toriano on.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Who is just a wasted resource that we never took advantage of. But he was great. He's been covering stuff. And but I'm curious to ask both of you. I'm always interested because I get texts from friends from around the country like, are you safe? Is everything okay? What is there any talk of what's happening here in the Pacific Northwest, and what is the perception of places like Portland and Seattle?
So, other parts of the country get accused of overlooking what happens in the Midwest. And I think we are equally guilty of it. And that, we're aware of what's going on in Portland, but on our show, we have not talked about it a ton.
Good.
It was a big deal when we had protests on the plaza. I mean, immediately after the stay-at-home order ended, my street was closed for 2 weeks because there was a cop parked on one end of it. I experienced tear gas for the first time in covering one of those protests, which was quite interesting. But no, I don't think there is a ton of awareness. I think people here are happy it's not happening here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the protests that do happen here, they have, peaceful marches. It very rarely does something go, something go wrong where it ends up on the news. But there are, protests that are happening here pretty regularly, but not to the scale, certainly, that you're seeing them.
Yeah, and it's calmed down here a bit, especially here in Seattle more than Portland. But it was just this weird dichotomous position that I took on it, is that no, the city is not devolving into anarchy, but also it doesn't mean that things that are happening here are good either.
Yeah,
and this is kind of a recurring theme that Terry and I speak about on the the protests and the lingering protesters and how the demographics of them have changed and how their motivations have changed and how their concerns have changed, actually. Now, Terry is a fake Seattleite. He lives out in Snohomish, but we're
Nice area.
I'm out here where the Confederate flag guys are.
I know. Yeah, in a lot of ways,
active.
where you live is a lot more terrifying.
Yeah, imagine that. I'm the one of all 4 of us here.
Right.
I'm the one. Yeah, I live where they're actively protesting the mask at times. So yeah, I've seen people in the grocery store without the mask a couple times. Right. So it's unnerving and aggravating. But
it was something that I don't remember. I think it was Scott Parks is the afternoon host on KMBZ, Terry, and he's your fake alpha male because he lets his masculinity be defined by others. And I feel like that those are the type of people who feel like they're less masculine for wearing masks. Like if the only thing that's not masculine is letting others define your masculinity. So if you're a man and working and worried about looking feminine by wearing a mask, it's the worry that makes you not masculine more than wearing the mask.
I'll take shots, Scott. This is my opinion, man. I'd rather be feminine and alive than be manly and dead.
Well, masks were cool forever. Like no one says like show your face, Batman, you femme. Like no, they're masked. Like I have no problem wearing it. I never have. It's really weird. Like I'll be out and then be home for 20, 25 minutes and forget that I even have it on because I like it's kind of, it reminds me of 2015 and having a Royals hat on. Like it's just this immediate, like you have this immediate respect for the person who is wearing it, knowing that they're as interested in your health as you are in theirs.
I want to tell you guys a secret real quick before we move. I mean, yesterday I had an epiphany. It was just like earth shattering. And I'm going to share it with you guys here tonight and only you guys.
Right.
I had to go yesterday. I went to go to the ATM machine at the bank, and it didn't work. So I had to go inside the bank. So I pulled around to the bank, and I parked right in front. And as I'm sitting ready, preparing myself to go inside the bank, I was like, oh my God, this is the only time in my entire life, probably ever, that it's going to be okay for a black man to be sitting outside the front of a bank, putting a mask on his face, preparing his things to walk into the front of the bank.
Yes.
And there be no challenges, no issues. There's nothing. They welcome me in. Go back and tell your 2018 self that, Terry, or go try it in 2018, Terry. And I am going to prison. So I'm embracing it right now. Like, this is it. This is it.
Yeah.
I reached the Super Bowl.
That is really that is the weird thing about that is weird about the masks, especially in Seattle, Terry, you're familiar with Black Bloc, the little segment of Antifa that used to be the only ones who would wear masks and cause a stir every once in a while. Trevor Noah, the new host of the Daily Show, once called Antifa vegan ISIS, which I think is absolutely hysterical. But they do smash up the Starbucks once a year or whatever. But they used to see somebody in a mask and be like, oh, God, is this guy going to be an issue? Is he going to have some sort of misguided principles? And now it's the person without a mask that I see walking in the rice aisle. It's like, oh, is he going to be the one who misquotes the Constitution to me?
But they're proud of it. Oh, my gosh. I'm so tired of having... I'm not kidding you. It's an hour of our show every day, or could be if we wanted it to be. Because
and what are the justifications, Jayme? Because
usually this is the first one. Well, so it's out of principle. The government can't tell me what to do.
Right.
Which yes, they can. It's Fauci said 6 months ago we didn't have to. I'm tired of that one. Well,
they hate Fauci. They hate Fauci.
Yeah. What he actually said was we're going to save the masks right now for the first responders. So. And again, even 6 months ago.
And I've addressed this issue because that was an initial point of confusion when we were then told to wear the masks. But I, like most people, when I heard about coronavirus, I was in Hawaii and dismissed it because we've heard about pandemics before, because pandemic doesn't mean as something as scary as you think it does. It just means an elevated level of disease.
Right.
But then now it's August, and I have learned since then. So I wouldn't trust Zach in February 2020, who was comparing it to the swine flu or Ebola or whatever previous pandemics. New information comes out. So why they still cling to that initial Fauci quote? I suppose it makes sense because they're still not over the Confederate War.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And it's fundamentally just some disbelief in what they hear. They just don't. Right. I heard somebody call into Dana and Parks, the show after ours, the other day that said, it's a 6 months ago thing, but then it's I don't really think it's going to work. And somebody said, you believe science on every other disease that comes up. Mm-hmm. Why don't you believe science on this? And it's true. Why don't people believe the science? And we've seen it happen. I'm sure you guys have heard this too, that in counties that mandate masks, the rate goes down.
Yeah.
What else do you need to know? It's so frustrating to repeat it over and over and over to people.
And people are just so dug in when it comes to, I think at this point, and it's sad and it's scary to realize we've come to this point as Americans that are just so dug into their political stance.
Mm-hmm. That's the thing. That the mask is no longer about science. It's about signaling who. But even at that point, it's just I can't remember something. So back in 1918, when the Spanish flu was happening, they had the same sort of issues. People were mandating masks, and others were saying, "No, this is against my rights," and those people died. It's like that's history that you can look back on. And now your mask can even just become another accessory. They're not easy. They're easy to come by. You could have a Seahawks mask or a Royals mask or whatever. It's not that big of a deal. And I'm again, this is one thing that I'm very, very happy about living in the Pacific Northwest, is that Seattle, at least my little bubble, has been incredibly responsible. It's just following orders. And I feel like we're doing it for an insanely from a conservative position, in that we want businesses to open again. So the best way to get businesses open again is to reduce the infections, reduce the positivity rate. And the best way to do that is to wear a mask and stay home whenever possible. Mm-hmm. That was traditionally this pro small business, pro business model was a conservative and Republican position. But
Amy, are your kids going to school?
So
what your kids are doing?
Yeah, this has been really a tough thing. I mean, we have stressed over this. I have not slept over this, but ultimately what we decided to do with ours was to keep them home for the first quarter. Our school, where my sons go, I was afraid it would be by semester. I'm like, that seems like a long time to hold them out, and we don't know what's going to happen, but I can do a few weeks of homeschooling. They'll be in a Google Classroom. So they'll be in their classroom, just not physically there. It did not sit well with them. They are
going to see their buddies. Yeah.
They do. They miss them so much. And they're going into 1st and 4th grade. And I just the idea for me personally, and tons of my friends do not feel this way. They are ready, like go to school. They're going to be fine. And they probably will be. And I hope to God they are. For me, I'm just a chicken, and I'm just like, let me just see for a few weeks how it goes when they open and how we do this social distancing. Can you pull this off with a bunch of 6-year-olds who like to get up in each other's faces and touch each other? And if they can pull it off, I will be delighted to bring them back into that building, because that's what they want. They want to see their friends, and they want to experience 1st grade and 4th grade. So it was tough. It was a really hard decision, and we're definitely in the minority in our school. But I'm okay with it. And the more information that comes out, I'm even more okay with it when the numbers continue to tick up. And, I feel comfort in the decision we made, at least for now.
Are you participating in what sort of homeschooling Is it you?
No, Billy will be here with them during the day, but it's their actual teachers.
Okay.
And the same lesson plans, the same work that their classmates are doing. And they are to be in front of their computers at 8 o'clock in the morning. They take roll. They will participate. And then what they'll do is she'll do give the instructions. And then I guess they take a break. And then my kids will work on theirs. And then I guess they take shots of it and send it in. So it's all pretty much real time. They're just not working inside their classroom while they're doing their assignments.
Right.
It's just such a great unknown.
No, I was going to ask you, Amy, and you, Jayme, also as well. So how do you guys feel about this temporary 2020 reality that we're living in moving forward? Like, what if some of this becomes our new reality? Like, are you okay with some of the things that they've implemented, or are you just like, no, when we find a way to drop this thing down to 0.00, whatever, can we go back to life as we knew it before COVID-19?
I'm good. I'm good with keeping a lot of the things that we've all learned a lot, and that there are certain things we don't necessarily need to do our jobs or live our lives. And I think for me personally, I'm going to slow down a little bit. You don't have to say yes to every activity and every single thing. I'm going to be, if I feel like there's a lot of flu going around, I'm probably going to wear a mask and not feel weird about it. If I want to spend more time, I like spending time with my husband and my kids and relaxing a little. I know that if I need to do my job from home, I can do it. And honestly, I was telling somebody the other day, it's weird when you do work from home. For me, it's like I'll get up in the morning, grab a cup of coffee and come down, jump on the computer. And like, I just start going and you don't feel the time. Like, I think I put more hours in when I'm home than I do when I get ready for work and head out the door. And then I'm like racing to get home for dinner or whatever.
Right.
It's like you put in more time. So I think a lot of things might change that I'm okay with.
I maybe am having a harder time. I miss people. I really miss people. There are a lot of friends that I haven't seen for a very long time. I mean, since before all of this started in February, because again, you feel like you got to keep your circle small. So there are people that, I mean, as great as video is, I have good friends that live in this city that I haven't seen in 6 or 8 months. And that hurts. And that's really, really hard. And there's a lot of anxiety associated and a lot of thought associated with every social interaction I have. I miss it being easier to just live my life and not have to plan quite so much. Again, my family is not in Kansas City that I can just go over and do a socially distanced lunch with my mom. That's got to be a multi-day thing. And so when is that going to be safe? I'm a big, fan of restaurants here, and it's been difficult to see restaurants close and to see, friends of mine that run businesses, and who knows when those are going to reopen. Just as a traveler, I'm not comfortable boarding an airplane yet. And luckily I like to drive, but so I will do what it takes to get through this, because I'd rather it be harder right now to know that there's an end to it, but it's difficult. I'm not going to lie. Like, I'll wear the masks, and I would rather there just kind of be a stay-at-home order again, if that's what it takes to get things back on track. Our mask order goes through the middle of January. That's how long our state of emergency is going to go. And we'll see what happens at that point. Numbers are going up. I mean, and I'm quite frankly doing this job. I'm tired of fighting with people about it. I'm just tired of the conversation constantly and having to convince people to do what they should be doing anyway.
Right.
It's absurd. It's absurd to have these arguments with people. It's absurd to walk into Quick Trip and have someone make a nasty comment because you have a mask on. Like, that to me is, I just can't. I can't with that type of mentality. I've hit my limit on patience with it. For sure. Because if everyone would, like you said, Jayme,
it'd be done.
We'd be done.
We'd be
right.
done.
We'd be New Zealand. Maybe not that good, but yeah.
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 People rarely do, the right thing all the time. You always have people who, for whatever reason, go against the grain. And it's just really unfortunate, because even though we know it's the best thing for us, there are people out there that just still won't do it. It's just frustrating. I agree with you guys.
Well, liberty.
Can't tell me what to do.
Yeah.
The government can't tell me what to do.
Yeah, I just had a friend who ended up hosting the shift that I hosted at Cairo, just quit because he just couldn't take the interaction anymore. Because the people that reach out to pretty much any media figure or any show, that's a fringe element to begin with. Like I never, as much as I've loved talk radio for my entire life, it would never occur to me to actually like pick up the phone and call. That's a crazy thing to do. And then,
they gotta hear my voice right now. They gotta know how I feel about this.
Yeah. And texting is more passive and easier, obviously, but it's like, what are you doing? And Jayme always, when we would get particularly vicious texts, that they had like children at home who, if they saw
or were married, and had wives and daughters and
dad, what are you doing?
Jobs and friends and I would even say to people sometimes on the rare occasion that you decide to respond, like, do you just talk that way to strangers or do you talk that way to people too? You know?
Yeah. People are very, very brave.
But it's the latter. It's the former. It's just strangers.
Right.
Like none of them even, Monacelli's not necessarily a physically intimidating person, but I still don't think that they would never say it to your face.
No part of me is intimidating. No part of my 5-foot frame is intimidating. Let me tell you. So no.
Yeah, but we would be out and about and never got anybody coming up to us, and you would think from the level of passion that their text indicated or their phone calls indicated that they would make an in-person appearance, but they never would.
Amazing,
never would. I know, incredible
how that happens.
So we're staving off madness. I have moments where I just want to pick up a pillow and just scream into it for an hour, but what I found is that, some of the time I've been able to use to better myself, not nearly as much. Like my graduate school program is on hold, which really, really sucks because I was supposed to be at a writing conference in 2 weeks and probably get an agent, but that's not happening. But I keep telling myself, well, other people have it worse. I have 4 on-demand services in terms of television programming, so I have a lot of stuff to watch. I have been regularly exercising, so Jayme saw me in a chubbier version of myself.
Yeah.
So, definitely sweated off some pounds. So I wake up every day, like initially like, fuck, another one, and then try to find just like one thing to focus on for the day, as minimal as it is. Like as small as it is, even if it's like send a postcard to this person to save the post office, or email this person that haven't talked to for a while. And I find like that I'm kind of sustaining that way because as slow as time moved when we first shut down, I feel like it's the days are going by kind of fast now. If you could I'm finding success in just getting an hour of absolutely distracting enjoyment every single day.
How long did it take you to figure it out? Like at the beginning, did you adjust pretty quickly, or did it take you a while?
A long time, because the weather was rotten here. I had just come back from an amazing vacation. I got furloughed. Then Jessica got furloughed, and then there was just. I think now we're just able to make a schedule. Initially, COVID seemed like this is just going to wipe everybody out. We had just these massive death totals out of initially Seattle and then New York. So it was too frightening to really find a way to get any sort of comfort. Like I was initially glued to CNN because like everything feels like I don't know what to do. The assumption was that everybody was going. My assumption was that I was eventually going to get it, and I don't know what that means. And now precautionary measures have been put in place, and I figure out a way to disassociate myself from the 6,000 pieces of bad news that come out a day. But that I'm not going to say that happens every day. I mean, there's some days I wake up and I'm just devastated, like everything's been taken. and it's hard to sort of rise like a phoenix on a 24-hour basis. But then I watch a movie like King of Staten Island, and it's like 2.5 hours of just feel pure joy and bliss. And I reread Philip Roth for the 90th time and kind of forget. Like my best days are the days that I walk out the door, go get a coffee, and then have to do an about face and come back and get the mask. Because that day I've forgotten there's a pandemic. Like those are the better days.
Yeah.
I think what happened in the very beginning stages of this COVID-19 thing is no one knew what to expect. And I think we all put our own expectations on it at the beginning. Like I know for myself, when it first happened and we had like literally the first case in the country allegedly happened here in like where I live, like in this Snohomish County. And that's my goal.
Yeah, no.
I'll put that on my resume.
It is going to be on your welcome to Snohomish sign at some point. Yeah.
Exactly.
COVID started here.
It started right here.
Yeah.
Right? I'm the first carrier. But no, I think that we put these expectations on in the beginning for it to be like so many things that have happened to us in the past. Like, oh, these people are sick. We'll be on lockdown for 3-4 days, and then we just had I think at least myself, we had expectations that okay, another week it'll be done. Okay, another week it'll be done, and then we just turned into a hopeless cycle for us at a time. We had so many expectations for it to be done. I think now most of us have gotten to the point, and that's why it was so long especially during those dark winter days. Right, it was just long, right? Like this is never going to end. And I think now we just came into a place where we accepted that this is where we're at. This is our reality, and we're going to have to do this until it's done. And so I think that's part of the thing that made it go so slow in the beginning. And right now it seems like we've fallen into this rotation. Like this is our reality. Now we're running.
Yeah. Jayme, I do feel bad, man. You are in the plaza, so you are surrounded by people constantly, strangers, but there is hustle and bustle. I'm glad you're not isolated, but who left in your life are you able to have like any sort of social meetups with?
So there was just a group of us. I'm lucky to have a lot of friends in Kansas City, and I'm lucky to live within a few blocks of a lot of my friends.
Oh, that's good.
And so in fact, that's what I did before I came on with you guys, there's a grassy area between my building and my neighbor's building. And I'm friends with a neighbor in the building next door. So if not for the ability to get together in parks, this would have been a miserable experience. But that's what we did. There's a group of like 4 to 6 of us that sit 6 feet apart in either the grassy area here or close to where you lived when you lived in town, Zach. And just sit out for a couple hours. And that feels normal because we're not willing to go inside to a bar. None of us are there yet. But if we sit 6 feet apart, then we'll totally be willing to do that. No, we were talking today about what do we do when it snows? And there was that moment of reality. Like I remember saying that in February, oh, we're lucky this didn't happen in the winter. Kansas City can have some bad winters. We're lucky this didn't happen in the winter because we'd all be stuck inside. And now we're going through a winter like this. Yeah. What are we going to do to be outside? So my circle has been kept really small. I've not been into work since March, been doing the show from home since then. And you just have to have this level of trust with the people that you're hanging out with that, that we're all on that same level of being conservative about it.
Right.
And we are, and you choose those people very carefully. But amongst my friends, there's only 2 houses I have been in the last 6 months. All of our interactions otherwise have been outside. And I'm okay with that for right now.
Yeah.
I got one last question for each one of you real quick though. Just part of our new reality, part of our new norm. Have either one of you since this pandemic hit been sick? Like comparatively to other years, like have you been sick?
So I'll tell you the story, and I've told the story on our air, so this isn't a secret. I went to South Africa in November of last year for 2 weeks. And I came back in December with a very nagging cough for about 2 months. And it progressively got worse through December. Just a nagging, respiratory, irritating cough. And by the end of December, I had a fever And it was the first time in my life I took 2 days in a row off work because that's how bad I felt. And I went to urgent care and I had every test under the sun done. I've got the medical bills to prove it. Every test they could think of, and they all came back negative. And it continued through January. And they were like, we don't know what to do for you. Eventually it'll just go away. And eventually it did. Eventually toward the end, 2 months later, it went away. And the theory now, my mom's a nurse and you start to learn more. The theory now is that that's what it was, is that it would have been COVID because it fit.
Wow. Right.
It fit it being a respiratory
cough. Yeah.
But that was it.
I think that's what it was. And I had a very similar situation in February. It was kind of early February, mid-February. I came home from work and I was just, boom, I was down. I was in bed, 102-degree fever, like dying. I was so miserable. Like where you're like you're in a ball and like your muscles hurt so bad and you're just dying and you just want your mom, like bad. And so Billy was like, are you okay? And I'm like, I must have the flu or something. So the next day I went to my doctor and they're like, oh, flu's going around real bad right now. We're going to give you a test. I'm like, okay. So they give me the flu test and it comes back and it's negative. And she goes, you have the flu. She's like, she's checking off the list. You have the flu. So she gives me Tamiflu, sends me home with it. I take the Tamiflu. I get so sick from the Tamiflu. It was like 1,000 times worse. And then I ended up like you. I took 5 sick days in a row. I would think, okay, I got to go to work. I can't do this. They're going to fire me. Right. And I'm like getting ready for work. And I'm just like collapsing in the bathroom. Like, I can't. I'm so sick. I can't. And now, so then I was sick for a solid week. Then I went back to work. And then like 2 days later, I got really sick again. And I went back to the doctor. I'm like, you've got to help me. And at that point, I think they thought I was crazy. And they did a chest x-ray and I had pneumonia.
Oh.
So they put me on an antibiotic and then it cleared up. So the fact that an antibiotic cleared up my pneumonia makes me wonder, maybe it wasn't, but I really feel like it was COVID.
Yeah.
And no one else, thank God, in my house got sick with it. Tommy had a cold right before I got sick. And he had a really bad cough and it was bad enough. We took him to the pediatrician. They're like, oh, he's like borderline walking pneumonia. Here's some, cough medicine stuff. And he was fine, like pretty quickly. And then I developed so I don't know. I mean,
I'd like to get an antibody test. Just to see.
You should both do.
Too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah. It's scary now. Like
sick.
I have a list of stuff now to smell to see if my sense of smell has gone. Like I remember there was a day where I wasn't feeling great and I'm like, let's get out the salsa. Let's get out my favorite perfume. Let's get out the bottle of scotch. Like this is going to be the measure of whether I've lost my sense of smell. Everything was fine. Like that's how I know. But it's crazy because the information about symptoms has changed over time and we hear more and more about what the symptoms. I heard it was sense of hearing now is what they think could go because of COVID.
Right.
It's like, and then you hear about the people that have symptoms for 3 months.
I know.
Like, do everything you can to not get COVID, please.
Get it.
Yes.
Yeah, that's why for me it's not just the those who have passed. It's we don't know for those who survive it what the lingering effects are going to be. I mean, it obviously devastates the lungs, but I whether I die from it or not, I don't want to be sick for 3 months. I don't want to cough from November to January. That sounds terrible.
It was awful. It was especially, talking for a living. It was completely, you can't hit that cough button enough. Just completely annoying. And then my partner, my current partner, then got a cough, in early February for a couple of weeks. And we're like, well, okay, that would make sense now that perhaps, and of course, we didn't have tests then. We didn't know what to get tested for.
Right.
So
they test you for the flu and for strep and they go negative, go home.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten, I've been fine, remarkably. I've actually been tested. But I don't know how, I'm shocked I don't have it, just being that I was around so many people during the initial outbreak and there wasn't a mask mandate and a lot of people weren't doing it. Like I was working at a place where the general manager and the HR director both refused until the very, very last moment, even post our governor mandate, when it just became literally illegal to conduct business.
Oh, wow.
So I felt very fortunate. So there's some days I just wake up glum. That's the closest thing I've been to sick, I suppose. Terry, I feel like you would have mentioned that it seems like you've been A-okay so far.
This has been the healthiest I've been.
So annoying.
Yeah, like my whole household. Seriously.
Yeah, that's great. But you should be during this time of year.
Yeah, we were strict when it came to the pandemic quarantine.
We have a very well run household. Like you have dinner theme nights. You have this. I love this room dedicated to your achievements. With your
I married. It's not what you don't even know, man. It's not a room, man. It's like a corner of a wall that we made for this.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh wow.
It's just one little section.
That's all right. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, you got your name up there. It's enough that you have an interesting background. I have an old timey elementary school clock, and then a poster of a place I've never been.
And may never go to at this rate. So.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I definitely was not equipped to be working from home for this long. I don't know about you, Amy. I don't know what you had set up at home, but I was not prepared. I had just moved into the place I live in now in September. And had I known, none of us knew, but had I known 6 months later that I was going to be working from home, I think until the end of time, I would want a second bedroom. I have bad acoustics, I have hardwood floors. I'm
right.
It's nothing about this was ideal, but it is. And kind of what Amy said earlier, it is kind of amazing what we've been able to do from home work wise. And I'm interested in that a lot. And we talk about that a lot on the show, like just how remote work has become. I'm a big fan of remote work, and I did it for 4 years previously in my career. So I like it, and I like the flexibility that it offers. And if I were able to travel, I would be doing the show from absolutely everywhere other than Kansas City, but I can't do that right now. So I like that. I mean, if there's any positive out of the pandemic, I like what it's doing to work. I like that companies that no way, no how were they ever going to let their employees work from home suddenly had to figure it out. And suddenly are realizing hey, people can be productive with their kids running around and from a laptop on their couch, Yeah.
Well, because people pretend that no one dicks around at the office.
Right.
It's just, that's what most of the day is.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's so true.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's been great to see all your faces and talk to you. And
it's great to see you.
Yeah, really, really great. I always have planned some sort of return trip to Kansas City. I keep in touch with a decent amount of people out there. The owners of the Blue Line text me constantly. It's the hockey bar out there, and there's Jessica and I talk about it. We get instantly sentimental. There's just there's certain things about it that that we just have very, very fond memories of. The crossroads, for sure. Just downtown, even as douchey as it could be, the Power and Light District, Terry, which is I think what kind of revitalized. We saw Third Eye Blind and all these other forgotten but still great bands, and it's a lot of good memories there. Probably never make it out to Mission again, but Kansas City.
Well, I'm more likely to get to Seattle someday. Someday when I can board an airplane again, I will look you up when I'm out there. But it would be fun, and I think about this a lot. There are moments where I'm like, God, it'd be fun to talk about this with Zach. Just on the air, topics will come up. We're going into an election. This would be fun, to talk about this with Zach.
So happy. I mean, if I got offered a full-time job covering it, I'd take it. But this, you are going to find so much frustration.
Oh, we've avoided it so far.
I think you can avoid it for quite a while, actually, because I mean, there's going to be debates and everything, but that week even leading up to it, and then what I think that your frustration is going to come with is the aftermath, the refusal to accept.
Yeah,
it results in either direction. That would be the thing I would least look forward to.
The longest day I've ever done on the air was the day after the 2016 presidential election. That was the longest 4 hours I've ever done, was a room full of people listening who said, "I told you so." for 4 solid hours. So that's all it was. It was us, wasn't it? Wasn't it you and me?
No, I was in
Oh,
Seattle.
were you gone then?
I was in a room with 3 Republicans, so I know exactly how you feel.
Oh, it was awful.
Yeah.
It was 4 hours of people screaming at me saying, "See, you were wrong."
And then immediately like, "Oh, you need to get over it." I'm like,
Yeah.
All right, mister, I have a Confederate flag. I need to get over it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Still upset. Like you're literally still upset about the Tom Brady or the Russell Wilson interception that cost the Seahawks the Super Bowl. But I should get over this in 12 hours. Like I haven't had 2 meals since Donald Trump became president, and I need to get over it already. Yeah. So that I don't even think the election coverage, because you can just, you can choose to do it or not do it. But once someone new or an incumbent is elected, you kind of have to delve into it.
A little bit, yeah.
But
not until then. We'll put it off for as long as possible until then.
That sounds like really like a smart flight plan going forward.
Sanity, just saving the sanity.
Exactly.
I'm so proud of myself how I'm just sitting here being completely objective and not saying anything.
Good job, baby.
Yeah, that's
so I don't
threw it to you.
I admire that you get to do that. Like some days I miss those days where I just worked in news and didn't get to have an opinion. Those were good days sometimes.
I have opinions. I get in trouble all the time for my opinions. So we're on. So
well, Terry and I do this once a week, and we should definitely have both of you back on at some point to check in. Yeah,
definitely.
For sure.
Terry, it was so nice to meet you.
Yeah, it really was.
All mine. Yeah.
Terry's the best.
Yeah, it's just great to see your face. Jayme, let's go have drinks when all this lightens up a little.
Someday.
Yeah.
Someday. And Zach, it's good to see you doing so well. Like it's good to see that things work out for good people. So it's good to see that things have worked out for you.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
No, shit has not worked out. I don't want to paint a rosy picture. Things are turning a corner, but I'm not going to be like, you know what?
You got a new cat.
I finally arrived.
You got a new cat? Wait.
Oh yeah, I got a kitten. Yeah.
So is your other cat still?
So Gelman died.
Oh.
Gordy's still around. Gelman passed a little over a year ago.
Okay.
And then we got Chef 2 months ago, and he's a cute little lunatic. But yeah, we just needed this burst of positivity. Yeah. So we decided to adopt a kitten, and it's worked. It's just a great distraction. What did you get up to today? Without any sort of human baby commitment. There's
not asking.
Yeah.
I'm not asking.
Yeah. It's a bit of a commitment for the human baby.
Exactly. Yeah.
They don't use litter boxes.
No pandemic babies are coming?
No, not at the no. It'd be so cliche to have a baby during the pandemic, right?
Is that the reason?
Yeah.
I'll drop.
So kittens, yeah, but a new kitten. I don't know where he is right now. He usually is right around sleeping on, but of course he likes Jessica better because every animal we've ever adopted ends up picking her. But that's fine.
It's Jessica.
Yeah, she just knows how to interact with them better. So
tell her we said hi.
I definitely will. Yeah, she should be home any minute, and I'll definitely tell her that she's just leaving work now. But yeah, really, really great to see both of you. And I know, Jayme, you're doing well. Amy, I'm assuming you're doing well. You both are in media and have retained your gigs, which means that you're both doing a good job at doing them. So
we're staying off someone's radar.
Yeah, yeah, right.
Just my name's not coming up in meetings. I think that's all it takes sometimes.
Do your job.
Yeah.
And Terry, we'll do this again on Monday at 6 p.m. Thank you, everybody, for watching. It's Burns and Holla. Zach Burns, Terry Holloman, Holla. Facebook.com/Burns and Holla. YouTube.com/Burns and Holla. And we'll talk to you all next week. Have a great week, everybody.
See you.
Thank you. Good to talk to everybody.
Peace.